It is time for the Everest podcast for the Australian Turf Club, and it's a real treat to have from Hawks Racing, Wayne Hawks. How are you, Wayne?
Good, Tim. Good. Thank you.
What about this race, the Everest? It's only been around since 2017. It's grown a life of its own, isn't it?
Well, as most people would know, I reside in Victoria, even though I've got a trainer's license in New South Wales. And Victorians probably don't like it that much, but let me tell you, even down here in Victoria, everyone's talking about it. And I think the thing more about it is, Tim, is that we'll put it in perspective. Melbourne Cup only starts getting spoken about the last week because of nominations have just closed. Then we start talking about the Melbourne Cup leading through the Melbourne Cup time. But I can guarantee you one thing, that the Everest is spoken about 24/7, 52 weeks of the year. And I think that's just a massive thing, because we're not even talking about the Melbourne Cup for 8 months of the year, whereas the Everest, the commentators, when something wins and wins impressively as a sprinter, they're going, wow, this might be an Everest chance in 8 months' time.
Yeah, there's certainly that magic to it. Well, you've got a runner, Masked Crusader, and of course that connection, Rupert Lee, I know he does a lot of work with Neil Werrett and Max Whitby, that whole connection. He's lightly raced, he's a 5-year-old gelding, he's an impressive type.
Yeah, look, to be fair, he was a star in the Melbourne yearling sale, and he just stood out head and shoulders above the rest, and he was the number one draft pick. So when you go to a yearling sale, what you want and what you can get are two different things. Probably no different to AFL and NRL in the draft. What coaches want, they don't get. So we were just lucky we had the guys at the time that had the money and stumped up for him with a freshman stallion in Toronado. If he was by Invincible or Stitzel, he would have made $1 million plus. So we were just very lucky to secure him. And he is a seriously good-looking horse. He's got the ability, but he's got the looks as well. Yeah,
your dad, he's a man of few words, but he has been quite bullish in a John Hawkes way about this particular horse.
Well, you don't get them very often. And look, he's not Chautauqua, because record tells you that there's never been a Chautauqua before. But if you have a look at the way he races, he's not unlike the other bloke. I mean, he gets back and he's in a non-winnable position. And, even like in the TJ, I mean, he just should have won the TJ and beaten Nature Strip. I think there's no doubt about it. And if you backed our bloke on the home corner, you were doing a Chautauqua, you're probably rolling your eyes going, here we go again. So he's nothing like Chautauqua. And I know now I've half, put some similarities there, but he's nothing like Chautauqua. But he races in that same sort of pattern as him.
You weren't overly happy with the ride that day.
Oh, really? Well, you know what? We won 3 TJs with Chautauqua, and the TJ is the premier sprint race in Sydney, and it's a $2.5 million race. Well, it's a grand final, Tim, and I mean, you don't get the crack of the grand final every day, so it's as simple as that. So. My emotions spewed over a little bit.
Let's go back to 2017, Chautauqua. What a horse he was. The turn of speed, just phenomenal. And in 2017, it was a slowly run Everest, wasn't it, when Red Zell won the initial one. Chautauqua ended up just out of the places.
Yeah, he ran fourth that day. He didn't have much luck, and by memory, I think a week. I think that was a day. It was the rock hard track, and I think a week later it was like about a heavy 20. So we all know that Chautauqua loved the wet, but you know what? You got to be right on the right day. It's Olympic Games at the moment, and I mean, look at people that just cook themselves mentally. It's it's a game of. We're not unsimilar to the Olympic Games. We're not 0.1 of a second, but you know what? When it's a bob up and down, it's a photo finish, and I'm thinking North Pacific, Ole Kirk, and a Golden Rose. That was probably the closest I had this year. Well, there was nothing in that. It was a touch of the wall, wasn't it, for the Olympic swimming team? So it's the same sort of thing, and you got to get it right. It's as simple as that. But Chautauqua, we certainly miss him. He was a crowd favourite, and I think Masked Crusader have to win 3 or 4 Everest to warrant getting towards Chautauqua's level. But you know what? He's certainly on the way. And the Everest, gee whiz, as we said before, it's certainly grown. And, Chautauqua didn't even win one. So that probably proves how hard it has been and it is to actually win an Everest.
He was going to come back the next year. He was all set, and then he went through. Talking about transparency and personality, he wouldn't budge. Yeah.
No, that's okay. It's like a smiling horror movie. Sometimes it was Yeah, it was. Look, you know what? It is what it is, and it was what it was. And that's bad English. But my point is, then what can you do about it? And we would get the horse at home, and he would ping out the gates. You'd take in the practice barriers, and he'd just walk in and just go whammo. And he just knew that he could certainly beat you on race day. Now, was he telling you that he didn't want to race again? Was he just being a smart aleck? I don't know. But the bottom line is, I famously said to Jason Richardson that Chautauqua was in the back of the bus licking windows. By the time he retired, correction, Wayne Hawkes was the one in the back of the bus licking the windows because he outsmarted me. It's as simple as that. We thought we were the ones that were smart, but I've never met a horse like him. And you know what? It's not how you want Chautauqua to finish his career, but I suppose it just added to the Chautauqua that we know. And you know, that famous call of Darren Flindell was just still rings in my ears. You know, will he create history? Yes. And you listen to the three TJs, it's, you know, Darren does nail it every time. But the one in particular has been on nearly Seinfeld to you name it, you know, with all the stuff on the social media. So
it's English and Fell Swoop fighting it out. Chautauqua very late. It's English a half length in front. Can he do it? Chautauqua, he's flying. Yes, there's history. Chautauqua makes it 3 in a row. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it shows you how tough the race is. Chautauqua's, you know what? I'll probably go as far as to say I reckon Chautauqua's the best horse to ever run in Everest. He certainly probably is the best horse to ever run in the Everest, but he didn't win one. So it shows you how tough the race has started off and how it's actually continued on.
You and the team have had some fantastic horses over the year, and as I said, over the years rather, as I've said, it's only been around since 2017. I think of horses like Lonhro and others, All Too Hard. Who else do you think would have been sort of an Everest horse?
Look, we had a horse back in the day called Accomplice, and he was by Canny Lad out of With Me, and that was the actual. Canny Lad won the slipper, and With Me ran second that year, and they sent With Me to Canny Lad, and Accomplice was the first foal of With Me. And he, to put in perspective, he won a Galaxy as a 3-year-old and broke the 30-year-old record at Randwick. Then he went on to Brisbane and won the Doomben 10,000. And Accomplice would go down as one of the best horses I've ever been involved in, and I've been very, very lucky to be involved with some great, great horses. But I reckon he was one that never really No, he's probably not a racing household name, Accomplice, but I reckon he's as good as what we have had. So it is an amazing race. I know this is a show about the Everest, but you know what? You can't. I mean, where can you put a hole in the Everest? I mean, to be fair, I mean, it probably if there's one hole, Tim, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's not a black type race. There's no black type associated, but it hasn't detracted from the race. You've got a horse like Yes, Yes, Yes that has won the Everest, and straight away he's a big success at stud. So you don't have to have a big Group 1 alongside any horse's name to go to stud, because plenty of great horses have never won a Group 1 that end up great stallions. Not a single doubt. I'm Invincible just springs straight to mind. So the Everest is not a black type race. It's certainly a bit of bone of contention at the moment. Should it be raised to being a group race? I think they should just put it straight to being a Group 1. Let's not be silly about it, and let's talk about the elephant in the room and say that the Everest should be a Group 1 race. It gets a Group 1 field every year, and it's the premier sprint in Australia. Having a Group 1 or no Group 1 alongside of its name won't change people like us nominating our best horse, Masked Crusader, for the race.
Absolutely, and well said. And look, we've been through a bludger of a time, the year and a half, the whole world has. And then you and I talk often, whether it be here or whether it be on the telly, or we've actually had the opportunity to be in person at the Premier's Day, the Premier Sales and the Classic Sales. I can't believe they all got away this year. Most times you guys are in lockdown, we are now. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's really good to look at something like October 16 from an aspirational perspective to say, okay, I can't wait for that because it's on. We know it's on.
Well, you know what? to be fair, Sydney racing's doing a lot tougher than Melbourne did. I didn't have to jump through hardly any hoops, to be totally fair. I was going to work with my staff, and we were doing what we were doing and rushing off to the races. And the biggest plus was there was no traffic on the roads, to be totally honest. Right now in Sydney, I know how hard and tough the boys at Warwick Farm and Rosehill are doing it. And they're doing it 20 times harder than what we did down here. So my point about it all is that, you know what, I'm glad the Everest is in the middle of October, because if it was any sooner, you know, we've probably got no chance of getting crowds back to the races before then and things like that. And it's look, the industry kept going. We went through EI and we kept going, but it's certainly not what we want with the COVID virus that's around. But you know what, it's certainly giving us some hope and plenty to certainly talk about leading up to the Everest.
Yeah, and it's igniting everyone to get COVID jabbed. And I think once we're at that point, we can start to breathe a bit easier like many other parts of the world. Wayne, it's always a delight to have a chat. Thanks for coming on the Everest podcast for the Australian Turf Club.
Tim, thanks very much for having me.